He never asked for attention, never chased success. Just a quiet man with worn hands and a fading garage, doing what he could to help others. But when a tearful boy rolled up in a broken wheelchair, something inside him stirred. He gave his time, his heart, and asked for nothing in return. What he didn't know is that someone was watching. And just days later, a jet would land in their sleepy town with a message that would change his life forever. What happens when a single act of kindness unlocks a destiny far beyond what he ever dreamed? Let's begin this unforgettable story. Dale Thompson never sought praise. He ran a tiny mechanic shop at the edge of Elk Ridge, a town where time moved slow and hearts ran deep. One dusty afternoon, while finishing a brake job on an old pickup, Dale noticed a boy struggling outside his garage. His wheelchair was busted, the front wheel bent at a cruel angle. Tears streamed down the boy's face as his mother stood nearby, helpless. Without a second thought, Dale crouched beside the child. "Don't worry, kiddo," he said gently. "I'll fix it. No charge." Despite his own financial struggles, Dale spent hours in his cluttered workshop, crafting a custom part from a junked mountain bike. He didn't just repair the chair, he made it better. Stronger wheels, smoother brakes, more comfort. The boy's smile, when he rolled across the pavement with ease, was payment enough. His mother cried. Dale simply wiped his hands on his oil-stained overalls, never imagining that someone very powerful had taken notice. Just days later, a private jet descended from the sky. And what came next would leave the whole town speechless. It was just an old wheelchair, but to Dale Thompson it meant something far more important. Dale stood in his dimly lit garage, wiping grease from his hands with the same rag he'd used for years. His little shop, tucked between the hardware store and a rundown diner in Elk Ridge, had seen better days. Business was slow, bills were stacking up, and his tools were as worn as his denim shirt. But none of that mattered the evening he met Joey Sanders. The boy had rolled up, or rather tried to. His front wheel was so twisted it barely turned. Dale had spotted him from across the lot, struggling and frustrated, tears staining his cheeks. His mother, Linda, looked equally distraught, unsure of how to help. Dale didn't hesitate. He walked right up, knelt beside Joey, and offered something he rarely gave these days, his time for free. "No charge," he said firmly when Linda tried to protest. "Let's just get him moving again." What followed was hours of labor that no one paid for, but that changed everything. Dale pulled apart the broken frame, found an old bicycle in the back of his shed, and repurposed the metal to fit. He tested the brakes, realigned the wheels, and even adjusted the seat for more support. Joey sat nearby the whole time, watching with wide, hopeful eyes. "This isn't just about fixing a wheelchair," Dale had told Linda. "It's about giving him freedom." When Dale finally rolled the chair back out into the parking lot, Joey's face lit up like a Christmas tree. He pushed the wheels with ease, giggling as he zipped across the pavement. "It's better than before," he yelled. Linda cried. Dale only smiled. He didn't know it then, but someone was watching. 2 days later, Dale was locking up for the night when he heard it. A deep, unfamiliar roar in the sky. He stepped outside just in time to see a sleek private jet descending toward the small airstrip at the edge of town. Elk Ridge had never seen anything like it. Crop dusters, maybe. Medical flights, occasionally. But this? It was something out of a movie. The jet landed, and moments later, a black luxury car pulled up to Dale's garage. Out stepped a man in a tailored suit and polished shoes. "Mr. Thompson?" he asked politely. "My name is Charles Green. I represent Mr. Richard Whitmore." Dale blinked, confused. "I don't know any Mr. Whitmore." "You will," Charles said with a faint smile. And then the back door of the car opened. An older man emerged, silver-haired and sharp-eyed. He didn't say much at first, just studied Dale with the kind of gaze that made a man stand up a little straighter. "That boy you helped," Whitmore finally said, "is my grandson." Dale's heart skipped. "Joey?" Whitmore went on to describe everything Linda had told him. How Dale refused money, how he used scrap parts, how he stayed late into the night just to make a little boy feel free again. "It wasn't just a repair," he said. "You gave him back a part of his life." Dale was floored. He hadn't done it for attention. It was just the right thing to do. Then Whitmore handed him an envelope. Inside was a job offer, no, a life-changing opportunity. A chance to lead design work at a state-of-the-art facility developing mobility devices for children and veterans with disabilities. With it came a salary Dale never dreamed of, benefits, housing, and more. "I don't believe in debts," Whitmore told him. "But I do believe in rewarding good men." Dale didn't sleep that night. The garage had been his whole life. But what if he could do more? What if fixing one wheelchair could lead to fixing 1,000? He stared at the contract. Joey's laughter echoed in his ears. And in that moment Dale realized, this wasn't just about machines anymore. It was about hope, freedom, purpose, and he wasn't just a mechanic. He was someone who could change lives. They thought the moment had passed. But when that jet touched down, Elk Ridge would never be the same. Dale Thompson had barely caught his breath from that long night in the garage. Fixing Joey Sanders' broken wheelchair had taken hours. Cutting, welding, repurposing old bike parts, and all of it unpaid. But when Dale saw the little boy roll across the pavement with ease and pure joy on his face, it had felt like more than worth it. Still, Dale didn't think much of it afterward. He returned to his usual routine: oil changes, engine repairs, answering phones that rarely rang. The creaky fan above his desk hummed like it always had, and the smell of grease and rubber lingered in the air. But on that third day, just before sunset, something happened that didn't fit the rhythm of his small-town life. It started with a deep rumble. At first, Dale thought it was a thunderstorm. But when he stepped outside, squinting into the orange sky, he saw something he couldn't believe. A private jet descending toward the old airstrip on the outskirts of town. Elk Ridge didn't get jets. They barely got delivery trucks. This thing shimmered in the fading light, sleek and silver like something out of a dream. Moments later, a black luxury sedan sped down the road and came to a smooth stop right outside Dale's garage. Two men stepped out. One was young and sharp, wearing a gray suit with perfect creases. The other was older, distinguished, silver-haired, and carried himself like someone who made decisions that changed lives. "Mr. Dale Thompson?" the younger man asked. Dale wiped his hands on his coveralls and nodded slowly. "That's me. My name is Charles Green. I represent Mr. Richard Whitmore," he said, motioning to the older man. "May we have a moment of your time?" Dale hesitated. He wasn't used to visits like this, especially not from men who looked like they belonged in New York boardrooms rather than gravel driveways. But something in Whitmore's eyes kept him rooted. Whitmore stepped forward and spoke with quiet authority. "2 days ago, you repaired a wheelchair for a young boy," he said. "You refused payment, stayed up late, and used your own materials." Dale nodded cautiously. "I did. That boy," Whitmore continued, "is my grandson." The words hung in the air, as heavy as a transmission block. Dale blinked. Suddenly it all clicked: the jet, the car, the suits. He'd helped someone far more connected than he ever imagined. "My daughter told me everything," Whitmore said. "She said you didn't treat him like a charity case. You treated him like he mattered. Like he deserved dignity." Dale swallowed hard, unsure how to respond. "I don't believe in handouts," Whitmore continued. "But I do believe in recognizing goodness. That kind of integrity? It's rare." He gave a slight nod to Charles, who reached into his jacket and pulled out a black envelope. Inside was a formal offer. A proposal to lead innovation at Whitmore Mobility Labs, a state-of-the-art facility dedicated to designing cutting-edge equipment for children with disabilities and wounded veterans. Dale stared at the numbers. The salary alone was more than he'd earned in the last 5 years. But more than that, it offered something he'd never had. Resources, purpose, a wider reach. "You've spent your life fixing things, Mr. Thompson," Whitmore said. "We want to give you the tools to fix lives." It was too much to process. Dale had always been the guy who kept to himself, worked in silence, helped folks one at a time. Could he really walk away from the only life he'd ever known? As Whitmore and his assistant left, Dale remained in the doorway of his garage, the contract heavy in his hands, his heart heavier still. He looked around, at the cracked cement floor, the old rusted toolbox, the sign his father hung 40 years ago that still read Thompson's Auto. Honest work for honest people. And suddenly he realized he hadn't just repaired a wheelchair. He had opened a door. And beyond it, a future waited. Dale Thompson had spent his whole life fixing things. But now, for the first time, he was being asked to fix something much bigger: his future. The black envelope lay open on the workbench, its contents staring back at Dale like a challenge. A job offer. A real one. Not another oil change. Not a neighbor asking for a favor. This was different. It came with 6 figures, a relocation package, housing, health benefits, and a title he never thought he'd wear. Director of Design and Repair, Mobility Innovations Division. He hadn't slept the night before. His hands, which could rebuild an alternator blindfolded, now trembled each time he held the contract. It wasn't that he didn't want it. It was that he wasn't sure he deserved it. Elk Ridge had been his home for 56 years. His father had built this garage with his own hands. Dale had learned to use a wrench before he could write in cursive. His life had been this garage, grease-stained jeans, long days, and the quiet pride of doing honest work. But what if that pride was holding him back? That afternoon, while Dale tinkered with the worn-out transmission of a 1998 Ford Ranger, he heard the soft hum of an electric motor outside. He turned his head and there was Joey, wheeling toward him with the ease and confidence of a child who had just been given the keys to his own freedom. His mother, Linda, stood behind him, her smile bright and proud. "It's perfect." Joey grinned. "I barely have to push it now." Dale walked over, crouched beside the chair, ran his hand along the improved frame. "That's what I like to hear," he said, gently tightening a bolt on the left wheel. Joey beamed. "You're the best mechanic ever." Linda, however, had a more serious look in her eyes. She stepped closer and lowered her voice. "I heard about the offer." Dale stood slowly, wiping his hands on a rag. "Yeah, news travels fast." Linda nodded. "It's not my place, but I want you to know something. What you did for Joey, it wasn't just a repair. You gave him his confidence back. You gave me peace." Dale said nothing. He wasn't good with praise. Linda looked directly at him. "There are kids like Joey everywhere. Kids whose parents can't afford decent equipment. Who struggle every day. You could help them, Dale. You could help so many more." He looked at Joey, zipping in a slow circle, laughing, his fingers light on the controls. A small hand tugged at Dale's sleeve. "If I move away," Joey asked shyly, "will you still fix my chair if it breaks?" Dale knelt, his voice catching. "Of course, buddy. Always." Joey grinned. "Then I think you should go." That night, Dale didn't pace the floor or stare at the contract. He sat in his father's old recliner, Joey's words echoing in his heart. You should go. What had started as a simple act of kindness, fixing a boy's wheelchair without charge, was now rippling outward, bigger than he could have ever imagined. He hadn't done it for attention or reward. He'd done it because it was right. But maybe that was exactly the kind of person the world needed in a place like Whitmore Mobility Labs. Someone who fixed things not for the paycheck but for the people. As dawn broke over Elk Ridge, Dale stepped into the garage one last time. He ran his fingers over the cracked tool bench, the rusted hooks, the faded photos of him and his dad hanging on the pegboard. He smiled. Not with sadness but with gratitude. He had done good here. But now it was time to do more. And as he packed his toolbox for the final time, Dale Thompson wasn't just leaving behind a garage. He was stepping into a purpose. For years, Dale Thompson believed he was just a small-town mechanic. Until he stepped through those doors and saw a future he never knew was waiting. The ride out of Elk Ridge was quiet. Dale sat in the passenger seat of the black sedan, the hills rolling past like waves in slow motion. Charles, the man from the jet, said very little. Only that there was something Dale needed to see before he made up his mind. Dale had agreed to the drive, still uncertain. The contract folded in his coat pocket like a weight pressing against his chest. After about an hour, they turned off the highway and onto a private road. At the end stood a facility unlike anything Dale had ever imagined. A sleek, modern campus gleaming with glass and steel, nestled between green fields and trees. A sign read, Whitmore Mobility Innovations. They pulled up to the main entrance. As Dale stepped out, his boots touched clean concrete. The air smelled of fresh paint and ambition. Inside, the building was buzzing. Engineers in lab coats, technicians moving parts, young designers huddled over digital blueprints. Dale's eyes widened. This isn't a garage, he thought. This is the future. Charles led him through a long corridor into a workshop filled with prototypes of advanced mobility devices. Wheelchairs that could climb stairs, exoskeletons for paraplegic veterans, and smart prosthetics that responded to muscle movement. "We've built the machines," Charles said. "What we need now are people with hands like yours. People who feel what needs fixing before they even see it." Dale ran his fingers along a carbon fiber wheelchair. The material was unfamiliar, but the purpose was the same. Mobility, dignity, independence. And suddenly he saw it. Every late night in the garage, every part he'd cannibalized from old lawnmowers, every free repair for a neighbor down on their luck, it had all been preparing him for this. In the corner of the room, Dale spotted a familiar face, Joey sitting proudly in a brand new electric wheelchair, its sleek frame humming softly. Linda stood beside him, smiling, her eyes glassy with tears. "I wanted to surprise you," she said. "They built this one just for him. Top of the line. And it's all because of you." Dale knelt beside Joey and examined the design. Lightweight, responsive, almost silent in motion. "How's it feel?" he asked. Joey grinned wide. "Like I could go anywhere." That one sentence undid Dale completely. He looked at the boy, the reason he was standing here. Joey had been the first domino. And now Dale could help hundreds, maybe thousands just like him. Then Linda handed him something. A small envelope. "One more thing," she said. "From Joey." Dale opened it, his hands trembling slightly. Inside was a handwritten letter in crayon and pencil. "Thank you for fixing my chair. But more than that, thank you for believing in me. You didn't just fix something. You made me feel like I mattered." Dale closed his eyes. The lump in his throat was too heavy to swallow. He reached out and ruffled Joey's hair. "Nah, buddy," he said softly. "You changed my life." That evening, Dale stood outside the facility with the contract in hand. The sun dipped low behind the hills, casting golden light on the rows of windows and shining workstations inside. He took a long breath and signed. He thought he was just fixing a wheelchair. But what he really repaired was a child's spirit. Weeks had passed since Dale Thompson left his little garage in Elk Ridge. Now he stood in a spotless lab, surrounded by engineers and innovators who treated mobility like a mission, not a machine. Every day, Dale helped build devices that gave children and veterans a second chance at freedom. But nothing compared to the moment he turned a corner and saw Joey, his very first client, zipping down the hallway in a state-of-the-art electric wheelchair custom-built just for him. Joey's grin was wide, confident. Linda stood beside him, clutching a letter. Dale opened it slowly. Inside, Joey had written, "Thank you for fixing my chair. But even more, thank you for believing in me." Tears welled in Dale's eyes. He looked at the boy, then the badge on his chest. He wasn't just a mechanic anymore. He was a builder of hope. Sometimes the smallest act of kindness, done with no expectation, can open doors you never imagined. True purpose doesn't come from chasing success. It comes from serving others with heart, skill, and humility. If this story touched your heart, leave a comment below and tell us about someone who changed your life with a simple act of kindness. And don't forget to subscribe for more real, emotional stories that remind us of the goodness still left in this world. Your next inspiration might just be one video away.